Hello and welcome to a very special episode of ADH Tea, a podcast with me, Sarah Griffiths, Wheelie Mama, intuitive empowerment coach, writer, author, and disabled mum of 3, and
me, Donna, Technicolor Swan, we're still going with that, and all the things at Unravel Tea.
So before we get started, Donna, what's in your cup and what's on your mind?
My hands are on my cup. In my cup is I've just gone like back to basics. I've got black tea, I've got an Assam, just because it is so cold and I just needed something super comforting. It's so warming and comforting. What's on my mind? A lot of different things. I am so proud of ourselves, of us. Yes, of us. For sticking to like getting the podcast back out when we said we were gonna. So that's exciting. Everything that's in my head right now, which is actually a complete lie because there's more stuff, but my words fail me.
If we told everybody everything that was in our heads at the start of every episode, it would be like Lord of the Rings length. So that would be
An epic.
Yeah, so that would be good.
Sarah, what is in your cup and what is on your mind?
So in my cup, well, it's actually glass today, is, you'll not be surprised to know, more orange juice. Because I seem to have a sore tongue, this is TMI, so sorry for everybody who's like, what the heck? Yeah, I've got a really strange oversensitive tongue at the moment, and I seem to be scared of drinking hot drinks just now, so I'm sticking to water and orange juice.
Wow, that's
Um,
not fun.
yeah, I don't know what. I didn't like burn it or anything, but it's like super sore. This is way TMI, so sorry everybody. I overdid it a few weeks ago with a bag of really, really, really intense salt and vinegar crisps. And I really overdid it. Like, I ate them all and it was like a share bag. I thought I had like scalded my tongue with the intensity of the flavour, but that couldn't last that long. Like, that's about
I,
3 or 4
I'm
weeks ago.
I'm really amused by this because I have done that before as well.
And did it last for ages?
Yes, it did last for ages,
Oh
and
no.
I think I was still feeling it after like definitely a month. I
Oh
think it
God.
started kind of dissipating after about a month and a half. I think I was back to normal in about 2 months. But I avoided eating salt and vinegar things. I love salt and vinegar. I
Same.
just oh,
Same.
and the more vinegar, the
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
yep,
Yeah. Exactly.
yep.
And do you want to know the worst thing? I did it and I really, really hurt myself. And then the next time I was back in Marks and Spencer's, I found myself on autopilot going straight for another bag. Brought them home and was like, what are you doing? This is like self-harm. Do not, like, no, don't eat them. And I haven't ate them. And I have no desire to eat them. But I'm like, could I really have damaged my tongue that badly? That like 3, 4 weeks in, I'm still sore. But anyway, very long-winded. I'm not drinking hot drinks just now because somehow I've decided that hot drinks were not a good idea. And yeah, that's on my mind. How I like sabotage myself for salt and vinegar, which is not a very
Bet you it
like.
was worth it though.
They were so good,
Mm-hmm,
so good.
yep. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really funny because when you were saying that, and I was like, she's gonna say salt and vinegar crisps.
Yep. And like you say, the sharper the better. If
Mm,
you're not contorting your face eating them, they're not
mm,
right.
Yep,
Yeah,
that is definitely the best kind of salt and vinegar.
yeah.
Um,
So why I said this was a very special episode this week is because I am going to interview Donna and ask her some questions. So first up, we have, what led you to pursue a diagnosis of ADHD later in life, Donna?
that is a really good question. I found myself in ADHD Instagram and I related way too hard with like so many aspects of it. And I was like, no, surely that's not me. And I overthought the entire thing. And then I actually did some proper research rather than just scrolling Instagram for it. And well, when I actually did the more, I don't want to say intellectual, but like kind of science-backed research, it was just too much to ignore. And I actually ended up speaking to my mother about it and sort of going, yeah, this has been on my mind. I don't know if this is actually the case, but it's just the thing I'm thinking about. And she's quite thoughtful and she absorbed it. It was interesting because I told her first before I told my husband, which was a bit of a strange way around for me to do it. But I think because obviously she knew me while I was growing up, maybe my brain was like, hey, she's seen all these things. She might be able to give me an external point of view from it. Does that
Yeah,
make
over a
sense?
longer period of time.
Yes,
Sure.
exactly. Yes. As I said, she's very thoughtful, and I knew that she wasn't just going to dismiss me out of hand without
Yeah,
considering things first. And she didn't say, no, that's a load of crap. So I was like,
yeah.
oh, okay, right. No, I do need to investigate this a little bit more. So yeah, I ended up then telling my husband my suspicions, my ADHD suspicions. I don't know if that's the right way of putting it.
Spidey sense.
And then he was really encouraging. He was really supportive. That's the word. My words are still failing me. My illness is still not completely gone. Bear with me with my words. So yeah, so I ended up filling out all the forms you need to fill in. There's like all the grid things that you need to do. Put it into my doctor, and I was asked if I'm happy to just think of this as a character trait, a quirk, or if I do actually, if it's just like I'm serious about actually going in for a diagnosis. And of course, I said I was serious. And yeah, it's been interesting because it's not been like the way I'm presenting it here, it sounds very linear. It's definitely not. There's been ups and downs, and oh wow, this makes sense. Okay, maybe I'm not so broken, and yeah, it's been a roller coaster.
This kind of leads me on nicely to the next question. Did your diagnosis impact how you relate to others or how others see you?
Yes, in some ways, because I didn't automatically think or just assume everybody saw the world as I do.
Yeah.
I think it showed me that my worldview or my experience of the world is different to others. I just assumed before everything, everybody got weird things with like, let's say textures and things like that, or, and they don't. Yeah, it was interesting because I then stopped, like I used to just sort of go, if somebody dismissed my viewpoint, if somebody just said, no, no, that's not the case, and just kind of dismissed something out of hand, and that was my opinion, I
Mhm.
used to be like, right, okay, no, they must be right, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And
You
I just
shut down
immediately,
and slam up.
yeah, I just shut
Yeah.
myself down because they
Mhm.
had. And it gave me the space to go, wait a minute, that's their viewpoint. This is how I see the world. This is still valid.
Yes.
And it's given me the space and the grace to do that, and which
Yeah.
is really important, which I think having shut myself down because other people have
Yeah.
eroded my self-esteem
100%.
because I was then under the impression that everything I thought was wrong.
Yeah. And everybody else, like everyone else on the planet thought the same way, and you were just the only one that thought differently.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. And it probably has made you more compassionate to other people as well,
Hmm.
because you're like, well, I think differently, so maybe you do as well. And maybe I need to give you time and space to express how you feel.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense actually. I think that even before I knew I had ADHD and I saw things in a different way, because I got shot down and I shut myself down, I was always quite encouraging of other people to not so much voice their opinion on a more public platform,
Yeah.
but to talk about it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
To validate their feelings and
hmm,
yeah.
hmm,
Yeah.
hmm,
Yeah.
hmm.
So is there anything you've learned about yourself since being diagnosed with ADHD?
Again, I would just come back to the whole thing of like not everything I think is not wrong. It's just different.
Yes.
But that's still a learning thing. There's still like I have ingrained, I will still shut myself down sometimes because I just second guess like every single thing that I think. Not so much anymore, but it's still there and it's still something that I just need to work through. It's very much a journey and that just feels like such a twee thing to say.
No, it is though. I don't want to put words in your mouth or take the conversation in a direction because it's your interview. So
No, no, do tell. I'm curious what that sparked something in you. I could see it.
no, I think when some of your behaviors or feelings or patterns get validated and you're like, well, this is why it is, it almost gives you permission to explore more. of
Mm-hmm.
yourself and things that you might have like squirreled away or, suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
It almost gives you more permission to explore,
Mm-hmm.
if that
Yeah.
makes sense. And then you can more fully embrace all of who you are and say, this is just the collection of all the things that makes me me, and then you don't beat yourself up about it so much either because you're like, this is just how my brain works. This is
Mm-hmm.
just how I see the world. It's not wrong. It's just me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's liberating, I guess is what it
Mm-hmm. No, no, definitely. It is very liberating, but it's also terrifying because I've kept such a lid on a lot of my viewpoints and a lot of opinions.
yeah.
That's always been the safety. So it is a little bit terrifying to try and like open that, like prise that lid that's been like glued shut. And I suppose that's also a process of unmasking as well. I still like, wait a minute, actually, I don't know how I feel about this thing. And I have to step back and go, I don't even know how to explore this because I've kept a lid on this so much for so long.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's really hard actually with some topics.
Yeah, no, I do get it, but I don't know. It does it come again? I always say things come with age, but when you have, I think the diagnosis. Well, I'm saying this, and I don't have a diagnosis, but from what I know of you, is like the diagnosis almost it gives you the validation in your own head,
Mhm.
and like, okay, I'm not broken. I'm not
Mhm.
making this up. I'm not just being a weirdo or whatever.
Well, I am, but I'm okay with that
Yeah, but
now.
embrace the weird. It's all good. That's why we're friends. That's why we love each other. Once you have the permission yourself, you're cracking Pandora's box open privately and having that like your own personal exploration of who you are.
Mm,
And then once you are more solid in who you are for you, then that gives you confidence then to express that out into the world in a way that is comfortable for you. But in order to do that, you have to have a solid foundation of who you are personally yourself.
hmm. Yeah, I suppose it's almost like going back to being a teenager or something like that a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I am only now realizing, or I have a safe space with Sarah to soundboard and kind of talk things through, and find out what my actual viewpoint on certain things is. I would love to come up with an example, but at the moment my brain is not working enough for that.
I know exactly what you're saying, but my brain isn't braining today either very well. I've had
Mm.
a sleep deprived week. Were there any coping mechanisms you developed before diagnosis without realizing that the things that you were coping with were ADHD related?
Just keeping my mouth shut about anything. That's a definite one
Yeah.
because then I would be ostracized by my peers and all the things, or things fall out my mouth and people look at me weirdly because yeah, I'm going to go into that story now. I was once working in a quite a posh deli.
This is my favorite story ever. I love this.
And it was just before Christmas, and there was like a jam or something like that that was sitting there, and it was labeled as fairy jam, and it had little bits of like gold leaf through it or something like that. And there was a posh customer came up and was like, "Oh, what's in the fairy jam?" And me, I opened my mouth and said, "Oh, it's squashed up bits of fairy." In my head, it made sense because like apple jam has got apple in it, it's squashed up bits of apple. No, this is what I said to her, and she did not look very impressed with me. Oops, but what was I supposed to do? So I just ran with it. Yup.
Absolutely love it. I wish I could have seen her face. I really do. That would have been hilarious. So, in terms of coping mechanisms, your biggest, what would you say, humor is a coping mechanism? Or is that
Well,
just like,
maybe. I don't know because as I said, stuff just comes out my mouth sometimes, and a lot of the time actually I mean I talk to myself all the time, and we've spoken about the fact that I failed my first driving test because I was speaking to myself.
you feel it because you were speaking to yourself?
Yeah, do you not remember that?
No?
So my first driving test, I was doing absolutely fine, not a problem. I think I only got ended up with like three minors or something like that, and one dangerous. One dangerous
One day.
is an
One
automatic
day.
fail. Yeah, we were coming up to a dual carriageway, and the road was like kind of slip road onto the dual carriageway. And I was speaking to myself because that's what I do. And yeah, I know, brain it just wouldn't shut up, even though it was my driving test.
Yeah,
And I said, "Oh, what way do we go here?" to myself. And I answered
yeah.
myself in my head. Driving dude thought that I was asking him,
You're kidding. He didn't
and
even
he,
ask you?
mm, nope, nope. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm sure. I think it was like three minors and one dangerous. This is an automatic fail. He didn't even have to use his brake pedal or anything like that.
Please don't tell me that he said he used the dangerous because you were talking to yourself.
Yep.
I want to punch him in the nose. What? That's ridiculous.
So yeah, maybe humor is a thing. Maybe humor was a coping mechanism because I just
Oh,
come out with weird things. And I'd be like,
yeah.
oh yeah, that's fine.
The reason I asked that is a friend, another good friend of mine, we always talk about how when you've got chronic illness or you have some kind of like, you know, challenge in life, and particularly I think if you're, I was going to say if you're Irish, but I think it's probably maybe a Celt thing. You have the gallows humor, dark sense of humor, and it gets you through. If you can laugh at the darkest of situations, you'll get through. Like it's just yeah,
That's probably me.
yeah. What's the biggest downside for you of living with ADHD?
The fact that I can't make my brain shut up, and the fact that stuff just falls out my mouth sometimes, it can be really, really hard. Even though my one of my coping mechanisms also is just keep your mouth shut. Because, probably because stuff just comes out. And I think also the fact that people didn't understand, and I also originally I didn't understand as well. So I wasn't able to put into words. I didn't have the vocabulary to give people the ability to understand or the
Mhm,
chance to understand as well.
mhm, mhm.
I think that that's a huge thing, and that comes with kind of the self-acceptance and going, this is why my brain's like this. It's wired differently, and that's okay.
Yeah,
And it's something that, obviously I'm always working on, and I will always try and stand up as much as I possibly can and explain to people this is why this is happening, especially if they get annoyed with me or something like that. Be like, well, okay, but look at it from this point of view, which can be difficult in the heat of the
yeah.
moment sometimes.
Sometimes I find that maybe it's because I spent so long chatting to you and you just instinctively understand me and you can do the process to get to you understand why I've arrived at what I've just said or whatever. You
Mm.
know, you can join the dots and get there. But
Mm-mm.
I kind of sometimes expect people to be able to read my mind or to know why I'm behaving a certain way, especially with her husband. And I really have to remember to like dial it back and go, this is how I'm feeling. This is what, like even this morning, I had to go and do something that was I was a little bit anxious about it. Well, a big bit anxious. And last night I said to him, I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm really anxious. I haven't slept properly all week leading up to this. So in the morning, if I'm like something possessed, this is why, when I was like preempting some bad
Mm.
behavior, just in case as it happened, it was actually fine. Previous me would never have done that. I would have expected him to know that I was going to be anxious and that I was going to be behaving out of character and stuff. And it's not fair. It's unreasonable expectations on somebody. So yeah, I was able to preempt and say to him this morning or last night, just in case I'm a bit spiky, this is why. And it was much better. But yeah.
It might have been better as well because you've preempted it and you know that he's going to be there for you and understand when you're in the moment, so you don't need to be that does it takes away a layer of anxiety. Does that
Yes,
make sense?
100%. Yeah. I even just naming it and saying I've been carrying this ball of anxiety all week, naming it almost lightens it a wee bit.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It
it's
makes it
true.
more like a shared experience as well. You're not carrying
Yeah,
it alone. Hmm.
that is true. And also it opened the door for him to say as well how he was feeling about the situation and if he was could relate to my anxiety and stuff. So that was nice as well. What superpower has ADHD given you, do you think?
That's a really hard question because I don't know. I mean, you hear all about all these people going, "Oh yeah, this is my superpower," blah 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 blah. And I don't. I can do the hyper focus thing, but I can't do it on command. For example, I once decided that I needed to not use like a plug and play website designer. I needed to learn HTML because why? I don't know. But I hyper-focused on that for like 5 days.
Mhm.
So I now have a basic understanding of HTML, which is great when my website breaks. But I didn't need to know that.
Yeah,
But I don't have an on or off switch. So I can't just go, let's do this. Let's get this sorted exactly at this time and hyper focus on this exact thing because no, I'm going to get bored of that and I will do something else instead.
yeah, no, 100%. You have lots of superpowers. I don't even think I have the ability to hyper focus on absolute nonsense, things that have no relevance to anybody, not going to do anything for my quality of life, like absolute brain rot, and I can hyper focus on that. But anything that's a skill that's going to advance my career, that's going to improve my quality of life, no interest. Like, so the fact that you're hyper focused is even if they're not, even if they're unpredictable and erratic, they're still beneficial. And you're of all the people I know, and I know quite a few people, you have the broadest range of knowledge. And not only is your knowledge broad, but it's very deep in each one of those areas as well. Like, you are like a walking encyclopedia and you don't even realize it.
I do get the whole I must research this one topic and I must know all the things about it and I will retain all this completely useless information. And it's
Yeah.
never about pub quiz topics, which is means I'm completely useless at pub quizzes. Absolutely, yeah. But if you ask me about I don't know, I can't even think off the top of my head what I've researched before about. Yeah, I'm lost for topics. Help, Sarah.
But like even the thing, the HTML, the
Mm.
GDPR stuff, all the email, like that's proper stuff that a business owner needs to know that you have saved my ass with several times. I can do the pub quiz, I can smash a pub quiz, but I don't go to the pub. So what is that? Like it's just like stupid. And like I can tell you about 6,000 levels of Candy Crush in minute detail, but how is that going to help anyone? No. So I would trade my superpower for yours any day of the week, and that's only one of them. Like seriously, if you could say one thing or help neurotypical people understand one thing, what would it be?
That we're not all the same. We don't function to listen to other people and to try to understand things from somebody else's point of view. I mean, I think that that's one of the reasons why I was always shut down by my peers, oh, that's wrong, blah, 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 because they didn't have the capacity or even the interest, maybe. I don't know. It's different for different people, obviously, to actually give me space and go, okay, no, that's an interesting point of view, have some kind of discussion. The world is not black and white.
Yeah.
There are so many different shades of all the colors. And yeah, just give people space and everybody's life experiences are valid.
Couldn't agree more. What a lovely place to end. Thank you so much for giving us a bit more insight into your past, I guess, your present, and your how you see the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being my interviewer. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of ADHD, where you heard me talk about completely random things and about squashing fairies. Because you know that you needed that in your life. You can find us across our socials, ADHD, the podcast, on Instagram, which we kind of ignore, um, Threads, which we don't ignore so much. You can also find me on all my Unravel Tea socials and Sarah across mostly TikTok on her Wheelie Mama socials. It would be great if you could share this episode with anybody who might find this interesting as well. And if you'd like to give us a wee review, that would be amazing too. We will be back in your ears next week.
Bye.
Bye bye.